Hey there, chummers, and welcome back to Let's Make Us a Character. And in this episode, we'll be Let's Making Us a Character for Cyberpunk RED, the most recent edition of the Cyberpunk RPG following Cyberpunk's 2013 and 2020, and ignoring the weird one with the action figures. And of course, this is also the series upon which popular video game Cyberpunk 2077 and popular anime Cyberpunk Edgerunners are based. And I am not going to get into the setting and its 50 some odd years of alternative history across 3 different editions. As previously mentioned, the 3rd edition is kind of scrubbed from continuity, but this one advances the world to the year 2045, and is supposed to serve as something of a prequel to Cyberpunk 2077, but I haven't actually played that and know very little about it, so I have no idea how they may connect beyond being set in the same world 32 years apart. So let's make us a Cyberpunk RED character. First off, there are 3 different methods for character creation: Street Rat and Edgerunner, and Complete Package. And we are going to be using the Edgerunner method, honestly just because that's the one that works best for the video, but I will be explaining all 3 methods as we go. So the first thing we must do is select our character's role, which is kind of like a character class, except that it's called a role. The options being Rocker Boy, Solo, Netrunner, Tech, Meditech, Media, Exec, Lawman, Fixer, and Nomad. And let's go with Media, since that one sounds like it's just a bit different from the standard role-playing game classes that we're used to. And as a Media, we get the Credibility ability at rank 4, which determines how likely we are to pick up rumors, as well as affecting our access, audience, believability, and impact of the media we create. Next, we need to run our character's Lifepath, which is just kind of a series of many tables that rounds out the character's backstory. So first we have Cultural Origin, so let's roll a d10, and Western Europe. Then we get to choose a language from those listed, and let's just go with English because that is what I am speaking right now. Next, Personality, and we are rebellious, antisocial, and violent, which is appropriately edgy. Then Clothing Style, Urban Flash, Hairstyle, short and curly, and affectation you are never without. Strange fingernail implants, whatever that means. Then motives and relationships, so what we value most, honor, and how we feel about most people, neutral. Then most important person to our character, no one, harsh but okay, and most valued possession, a piece of jewelry. Now on to original family background, and it seems that our family is combat zoners. Then childhood environment, and I'm actually going to choose in the heart of the combat zone, living in a wrecked building or other squat, because that seems like the most likely place for a combat zoner to have grown up, in the combat zone. And then a family background, and your family is involved in a long-term conspiracy, organization, or association, such as a crime family or revolutionary group. So taking all of that, let's say that our family is part of a, let's just say, group who helps protect the community in the combat zone by helping acquire and distribute supplies and such, but does so with the understanding that they receive loyalty and special privileges in return, which probably helped our character have the freedom to pursue interest in media instead of, just surviving in the combat zone. Alright, so next we have friends and enemies, the number of each being determined by rolling a d10 and subtracting 7 with a minimum of 0. We cannot have negative friends. And apparently no chummers for us, so I guess no need to roll on this table. Then we have one enemy who was a person working for us until one or the other caused the loss of a lover, friend, or relative, and has just themselves and a close friend to throw at us. So let's tie all that together and say that we hired 2 brothers at some point to help us investigate a story on shady dealings between a corporation and organized crime family one of whom ended up getting killed for learning too much. And of course now the other holds a grudge and will verbally attack if we run into them. Then on to tragic love affairs, the number of which are determined the same as friends and enemies, so 2. Then we need to determine what happened, and 1 just didn't work out. I think we've all been there. While the other is imprisoned or exiled. I think we've all been there. And finally, our life goal, which is gain fame and recognition. That seems appropriate. And when I say final, I mean final for the main life path. We actually have a second, smaller life path we have to run through based on our role. So, what kind of media are we? Blogger. And how does our work reach the public? And I'm just going to choose blog on this one since blogs are normally where bloggers blog. Then ethics, and we are willing to bend any rules to get the bad guys. But only the bad guys. Good thing that bad guys isn't a subjective term or anything. And finally, what kind of stories do we want to tell? And given that we've already worked a story involving investigating a corporation into our backstory, it makes sense to choose corporate takedowns. And now we are done with the life paths. And just in case this is your first exposure to it, I should point out that life path generation is not that uncommon of a feature in games, but can be a little weird if you're not familiar with it. And it's a thing that, while a little odd, can really help jumpstart a character concept. As you saw, we just started rolling, but then things started just kind of falling into place based on the stuff that we rolled. But now on to statistics, and this is where the 3 methods start to come into play. Characters have 10 primary statistics: intelligence, reflex, dexterity, technique, cool, willpower, luck, movement, body, and empathy. And each role has its own stat table, and we will of course be using the media table. For a street rat character, you roll a d10 and then just take all of the values in the rolled row. But as an edge runner, we roll each column individually and then take those values. And complete package characters just get a number of points, normally 62, to divide between their stats, and I am just going to assume that you know how a basic point buy system works. And this is a really interesting attribute generation process because it still has the random element of rolling your character, but also makes sure that the stats you roll are always going to be appropriate for your role. You can't really roll a bad character here. You can roll a not great character, but you're never going to end up with like a 3 in one of your key attributes for your role. Then we have derived statistics, which are the same for all 3 methods. Hit points equal to 10 plus 5 times the average of body and willpower rounded up, and there is a convenient table for that. Then seriously wounded wound threshold, which is half hit points rounded up, and death save, which is equal to body. Then humanity, which is basically psychological well-adjustedness, and is equal to empathy times 10. And for some reason, there is also a table for that. And next up, we have skills. Street rats just get a list of 20 skills with the values already filled out. Edge runners get the same list, but also 86 points to spend on them, and complete packages just get the 86 points to spend on any skills they want. So let's just pull up our media skill list, and skills have a minimum level of 2 and a maximum level of 6, so I guess let's just put 3 in each of our listed skills, which takes care of around 2/3 of our points. Then we'll bump evasion and handguns up to 6 because, honestly, all of the pre-generated skill lists have maxed out evasion and at least 1 weapon skill, so I'm just going to take that as a subtle hint that those might be important. Then conversation, human perception, perception, persuasion, composition, deduction, and lip reading at 5 because those seem like pretty important core investigative blogger skills. Then our last 6 points in concentration, first aid, language street slang, stealth, bribery, and library search, bringing them each up to 4 since those also seem like fairly useful skills. We also get English at level 4 as it was the language from our cultural origin. Then we add the relevant stat to each skill to get the skill base. And that was the skills. And finally, equipment. Total package characters get 2,550 Euro-bucks to spend on all of their equipment, weapons, cyberware, etc., but Street Rat and Edge Runner characters get pre-generated equipment lists with maybe a couple options. So as a media, we get a heavy pistol and 50 rounds of ammunition, light armor jack body armor, and light armor jack head armor. Also, an agent, which is a type of high-tech AI smartphone, audio recorder, binoculars, 2 disposable cell phones, flashlight, computer, radio scanner/music player, scrambler/descrambler, video camera, generic chic footwear bottoms and top, leisure wear jacket, and urban flash mirror shades. And all characters other than execs start living in a rented cargo container, living a kibble lifestyle. But now it is time to put some cyber in the punk. And once again, we have a pre-generated list, and I should probably start out by explaining how Cyberware works. Basically, with exceptions, you have a base cybernetic component which then has option slots for the various enhancements that you may want. So, for example, we get a cyber audio suite, which has 3 option slots. Then we get our choice of amplified hearing, which gives a +2 bonus to hearing-related perception checks, or a voice stress analyzer, which gives a +2 bonus to human perception and interrogation checks. So basically a built-in lie detector and the choice we will go with. And then that takes up one of our 3 Cyber Audio Suite option slots. Also, other than the purely aesthetic stuff like our light tattoo, Cyberware deducts from our humanity, with the loss measured in dice. However, during character creation, the average is taken instead of rolling. And for Street Rat and Edge Runner characters who have a pre-generated list of cyberware, they also have a pre-generated value for the humanity loss for their cyberware, which in our case is 10 points, reducing our humanity from 60 to 50. And since 1 point of humanity is basically 1/10 point of empathy, every 10 points of humanity loss results in 1 empathy loss. So that reduces our empathy from 6 to 5, which of course is then going to reduce all of our empathy skills by 1. And then of course if we run out of humanity/empathy, we get the cyber psychosis, which is bad. We also get an additional 500 Euro-bucks for any other equipment that we may want, which is unfortunately not quite enough to get a cyber eye with a micro video recorder, so let's just hold on to that so we can get one of those later because that sounds like a really cool thing to have. And this cyber is punked. And as I usually do, I will now go over the basic rules of the system. As mentioned earlier, we add our skill and relevant stat values together to get a skill base. Then to do a thing, we roll a d10 and add that skill base, with success on a total result exceeding the difficulty value, which could be a static value or it could be the roll result of another character. Rolls can also be affected by situational modifiers like darkness, unfamiliarity with a task, or having slept poorly the night before, and any other myriad of things that may affect the character's ability to perform a task. You can also spend a number of points from your luck pool to get a bonus equal to the number of points spent, which then replenishes at the beginning of each game session. So let's just put all of this together and say that our character is meeting with an exec who claims to have some juicy info on extra shady dealings of their employer. But we are starting to suspect that they might be trying to pull the electric wool over our eyes. So we take our human perception of 5 plus our reduced empathy of 5, which is opposed by the exec's persuasion of 6 plus cool of 8. And as this is a very cool customer, and if we intend to act based on this information, it is very important that we are sure that it's accurate. So let's spend 3 points to add a +3 bonus, along with the +2 from our voice stress analyzer for a total bonus of 15. Then we roll the dice, and a total of 21 versus the exec's 23. So, despite all of our luck and robot parts, the exec was just too slick for us to get a good read on. But then let's say that later on, after things have gone significantly sideways, we happen to run into the same exec again while fleeing the scene and decide to repay them for their help. Ranged attacks are resolved against a difficulty value based on range and weapon type, unless the target is sufficiently reflexy to attempt a bullet dodge. And let's say that they are 5 meters away, which with our pistol makes the difficulty 13. So we roll a d10 and add our handgun skill of 6 and reflexes of 5 for a total of 16. So a hit and our heavy pistol deals 3d6 damage, so 13 total. However, the exec is wearing light armor jack, which has damage stopping power of 11, which reduces the damage to 2. But since some of the damage did penetrate the armor, it does also reduce the stopping power by 1. And that was a Cyberpunk RED character. It's got the cyber, it's got the punk, it's got the red. Admittedly, I am not familiar with any of the previous editions, so I don't know how this one compares to them, but there are some concepts here I like. The 3 methods, while at times feeling like an excuse to explain everything 3 times, are kind of neat in that they do allow players of different experience levels to quickly make a character and get into the game without having to spend that much time and effort on character creation, while also retaining the more involved method for those who want to invest the time. And as I said earlier, the attribute generation is fairly well done. The equipment lists are a little restrictive, but any good GM should be able to help players swap out a few items to, account for that. It does, however, fail to provide any genital customization options, so you are going to want to pick up Penis 2.0.77 or another third-party genital customization system to fill in that gap. And thank you for watching, with extra special thanks to my Fight and Flail Snails, Samuel Gorski, Ranty Mulholland, and Toshirokuro. If you'd like to be cool like them, you can check out my Patreon, where you can get early access to videos and fun stuff that I make for the Patreon. But if you don't want to do that, that's cool too. You can still hit all the lovely buttons, like, subscribe, these other videos which either myself or the cold heartless YouTube algorithm have lovingly selected for you, which I'm sure are lovely videos that you will also enjoy. And I will see you next time.